One. Here we go. Hey, welcome. Happy holidays. Kwanzaa, Hanukkah, post-Christmas, Festivus. Welcome to the Shaker Heights. Here we go. About to step into the new year in the days ahead. And when you do, and if you're local, you need to come out on January 3rd. And we're going to tell you about that later on because we have this amazing guest, classmate, class of 84, prodigy. And like Bill McRae on the horn, my man Quenton Rubin, he'll kill anybody on the guitar. Come for him and see what happens. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to bring to the stage Mr. Quenton Rubin.
Hey. Thank you so much for kind words, sir.
No doubt. They come straight from the heart.
That's what's up. Appreciate you.
Yeah. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Glad to be here.
Yes. What neck of the woods are you in at this time?
I am currently in Shaker right now, actually.
Okay.
Where?
Okay. Right on. Yes. So we are truly representing to the fullest.
Exactly.
Via Zoom. Shaker. All right, man.
I love
Well, Quenton. Yeah. So here we are, man. Let's start at the beginning.
Okay.
When did you come to Shaker with your family? Or did you go to elementary school? Who were your friends?
The first house I remember was on 149th in Kinsman. That's where we first started. And when it was time to go to kindergarten, I guess like all of our parents at the time, they wanted us to go to a better school system.
Yeah.
So we ended up moving to Shaker. I think that was, what year were we in kindergarten? Was it like 71?
71, 72.
172.
Yeah.
So I lived on Reedham, from kindergarten all the way through ninth grade. And then we moved to Lindholm, which is like 3 streets over from Reedham. So yeah, Shaker was, that was my little circle right there.
Yeah.
Long time resident.
So who were some of the, your friends that you remember growing up? And
oh man, listen, I'm still friends with them, man. So we go back to kindergarten, first grade, second grade. Chris Brown, Cliff, who else? David Embry. David Embry's mother was actually my after-school babysitter for most of, for real.
Oh wow,
the early Lomond years.
Okay.
Bruce Red, remember Bruce?
Yes.
Yeah. I ain't seen him in a minute. Yeah, Bruce Red. They used to live right behind me. So me and Bruce, his parents and my parents were really good friends. So we used to see each other all the time. Like when parents would get together and have their little parties and shit, and we had to go sit in the back room and remember them days and shit.
Yeah.
So yeah, Bruce, and then the Warrens used to live, 2 doors down from the Reds, and they again were pretty good friends with my parents. So I used to see Carlin Warren and Kristen Warren all the time too. So we all kind of like grew up together. So I spent a lot of time over there too. And then outside of that, I spent a lot of time on Seville and Lee past Miles, where all the Rubens live, my uncles and my aunties, because they're not that much older than me. So
okay.
My uncles and aunts were like big brothers and sisters, at the time. I think you familiar with my aunt Vanessa, the jazz singer?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, she's 9 years older than me. So
I did not make that connection all these years.
Oh yeah, she's like my sister, man. She's my auntie, but
wow.
Vanessa would be the closest thing to that. So yeah, we kind of came up in the business together as well.
Okay.
Yeah, man. So that's I as far as Lomond goes, that's pretty much the people I hung out with. I mean, along with everybody else. I mean, the same people that ended up going to Byron, and I mean, we were all lifetime friends. Everybody, we all know the same people, But I did spend a lot of time with Bruce and the Warrens because they lived so close, and our parents were, so close. We were always together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, did you grow up with music in the house? Were
Oh,
your parents musicians, or just had the crazy record uh,
well, my
collection?
grandmother, I'm half West Indian, so my father, he's from Trinidad.
Trinise.
My grandmother's from Trinidad, so I grew up. When I'd be over there, listen to a lot of like Caribbean calypso type music. But she was an entertainer as well. I think that's where we all ended up getting it from. But she played piano. She had her own steel drum band. My uncles used to play
Okay.
steel drums in the band and shit. So when I was real little, I used to go and watch that. But my dad, um, he was also, you know, incredible, just naturally gifted piano player. So, he was playing all the time. He never did it for a living, but I got a lot of shit just from, just being around, hanging around him. I remember when I was real little, good friend of his, Dewey Jeffries, who was also at that time like a pretty popular musician around town. Him and my dad were really good friends. And before I started playing, my dad would go over to Dewey's house just to mess around and play his piano and stuff. And I remember I used to sit underneath the piano where my dad's feet were, and I would just lean up against the piano. I would just listen to him play and shit.
Wow,
Yeah, I
that's a
remember.
beautiful memory, man.
Yeah, but yeah, for real, for real. At the time, I didn't know if I was even, going to be playing anything, but I just knew something about the music. I just used to love to just be around that shit.
Hmm.
And so yeah, music. My dad was a jazz fanatic. Okay, if there's anybody that's a jazz fanatic, it was my dad. To him, if it wasn't jazz, it ain't real music.
Mm.
Ultimately, my I said during high school where we started kind of bumping heads a little bit, along with just regular teenage rebellion, if you will. We had our issues.
Yeah.
Yeah, my dad had a lot to do with how I ended up, I think, as a musician, or just being able to have a life as a musician. So when I was about mm, 8, 9, what are we in, third, fourth grade, around that time? That's kind of
Hmm.
like when I kind of started playing, and um, he overheard me playing the blues. I was just fucking around. I didn't know what the fuck I was doing yet, so I was just kind of blues, and kind of like, oh shit. So I started guitar lessons, and on the first day, after the very first lesson, the guitar teacher pulled my dad aside and he was like, "Yo, can I teach him privately?" So I'm about 9 at this time. So my dad got super excited and shit. So he just started popping, like all these jazz records, kind of like telling
Yeah.
me, kind of like
Yeah.
telling me, you about to be a jazz. I'm about to make you a jazz artist. He might have lived some of his personal shit with me at the time, which was cool.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So I mean, I was young. I didn't know. I knew playing jazz made him happy. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
And I just wanted to play. I definitely, you know, just like any other kid, was listening to the radio, wanted to play everything on the radio, and all that shit as well. But he was so strict about the music thing, and it
Right.
was really, no, you got to stick to the jazz thing, jazz thing, jazz thing. So jazz was kind of the first thing I started really doing a lot of, really playing a lot. So yeah, I mean, he was so strict about it. I mean, it was to the point where certain records, he wouldn't even let me play in the house. I mean,
I can imagine.
he was hardcore with the shit. Like if I
Yeah.
was playing Prince records, or
Yeah, I knew that was going to come up.
he
Yeah.
would tell me like, "Yo, turn that shit off," type shit.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
because of that, this is around the time I started gigging. Around seventh grade, into sixth grade, seventh grade. So because he would really, only want me to listen to jazz and practice the jazz, and didn't really want me to listen to. So what I would do, y'all remember the days when you come home from school, set your tape deck up by the radio, and hit record.
Yes.
Yeah.
Make
Yeah.
the pause tapes. Yeah.
Or to play shit that I wanted to play, or shit that I like. That's what I would do, because I wasn't allowed to have the records around me. You know what I'm saying? Or
Wow.
now there have certain records. Back in them days, he didn't really trip on. Like he really dug the Ohio players.
Okay.
Play that in the house, no problem. And shit, you know what I'm saying? But he wasn't really into it. He didn't really understand the George Clinton stuff, the Prince
No.
stuff.
No. Rick James.
And no, he wasn't no Rick James.
How about, I bet he let you do some cool in the game, did he?
My dad was the Three Sounds, George Benson, John Coltrane,
Oh yeah. The heavies.
you know,
Yeah.
I'm a Jamal, Thelonious Monk. You know, my dad was strictly like, you know, Miles Davis, though, you know, hardcore. You know what I'm
Wow.
saying?
Yeah.
Anything else I had to, you know, kind of hear on my own. So
Mhm.
with that, and so when I would go to my grandmother's house, you know, the whole family are musicians. Getting back to you
Hmm.
asking me
Yeah.
about. So my uncle Michael, he plays percussion. I got another uncle that plays sax. Of course, you know, Vanessa sings. So because they weren't that much older than we were, you know, when I would go to their house, they would be playing the records that I wanted at home.
Right. Right.
Mhm.
You go to the cousin's house. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like, yeah, I'm going to my grandmother's house. I get to hear
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
this shit. You know,
Yeah.
so they was playing Parliament Funkadelic, fucking Sly Stone. You know, they was playing Hendrix. They was playing Santana. You know, all the other shit that I wouldn't get at home. You know, so that's where I would pick that influence up. So back to, you know, when I was started gigging. This was like, oh man, 7th grade. I started gigging. So after, I say maybe when we got closer to 8th grade, I kind of started wanting to do other types of music. So, you know, of course, we all had little bands that we get together at school. And so I used to try to make everybody, you know, be in a band with me and try to play the shit on the radio.
Mhm.
Really worked out like that until we got
Okay.
closer to high school. So during all this time, I'm gigging with my aunt, you know, I'm playing, I'm swinging, I'm fucking, you know, we playing blues, we jazz and jazz and jazz and jazz. And by the time we get to, oh man, 10th grade, okay. The summer between the 9th and the 10th grade was when the
Mhm.
Get It Up came out.
Prince. Yeah.
Now prior to this, there's two very important records that happened in my lifetime between junior high and high school. The first record, which leads me to a story. I will say that, you know, it's one of
Yes.
the
Do
moments.
tell.
Fuck it, I'm gonna tell you anyway.
Mhm.
The first record
Oh.
outside of jazz that really, like, you know, I was like, oh shit, I want to play like that. I want to play shit like that. Was Knee Deep. Now, prior
Mm.
to Knee Deep, you know, we were kids. We were like elementary school. So yeah, we were listening to Flash.
We were knee high listening to Knee Deep.
Listening to all those kids, but I had yet to be like really into the P Funk world. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Because I had some friends who were diehard P Funk. You know, I wasn't that yet. You know, I was just like the records and shit. But anyway, Knee Deep came out, and then the remix had a guitar solo. I don't know if y'all remember that guitar solo.
Yeah, I've heard it. Yeah.
Mike Hampton played guitar on that solo. Just that, I'm telling you that for a reason, because that leads to another very embarrassing story. That
Okay.
it is what it is. So that solo was like, I don't know what it was about that solo, but just the way he played it, the feeling behind it, it was, that shit just changed my whole perspective. And I was like, you
Mm.
know what? I need to explore more shit like that. So I really started kind of going back, listening to a lot of funk records and trying to catch up on old shit, just trying to, you know, be a part of that whole funk type thing. You know what I'm saying? So um still playing jazz. You know, during this time, we listening to Cameo, Rick James is still hot. Prince has just come out. We probably like in the, you know, the I Want to Be Your Lover era, getting ready to hit
Yeah.
Mind era. So I was really like, oh shit, who is this dude? You know, it's just still not really grasping who Prince was yet. You know, so 9th grade, going into 10th grade, that's when Get It Up came out.
Okay.
That was the second record that changed my whole shit.
Wow.
Funkiest fucking record
Yeah.
when it came out. You know,
I have to represent here, you know, at the break.
so I like dived into the whole Minneapolis shit. You ask anybody that know me, like, you know, during the 80s, late 80s, oh, you know, definitely Minneapolis now, for sure, without a doubt.
So let me ask you real quick. Did you ever cross paths with Amp Fiddler?
Damn, that name sounds familiar.
Yeah, he's out of Detroit.
Can't say I remember him.
Okay. But you guys are probably, I would probably think, you know, once you dug deeper, you guys would have probably been like 2 degrees of separation. But anyway, he comes to mind when you're talking about Minneapolis as well.
Yeah.
I mean, he's, you know, even though he's from Detroit.
That was definitely, you know, very impactful, excuse me, in my life at that time. You know, this time you figure, well, we're 15, 16 years old. That's like a really influential period, especially
Yeah.
musically. You know, you're going,
Yeah.
whatever you're listening to at that time in your life is going to be a
Right.
influence on what you do in the future or what you end up doing for yourself. So now during this time, I'm still gigging, playing jazz, with my aunt and making my dad happy. But this is around the time, me and my dad started bumping heads. Now I love jazz just like the rest of the family, but and I still listen to jazz and I still play it from time to time. The knowledge that I gained from jazz is probably the most valuable thing that I got from that, and I jazz for that. But I don't know. I just got to a point where I did not want to be a jazz artist. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
What I loved about jazz the most was, the art of improvisation, being able to create on the spot what you hear, you feel, and soloing was always, my thing from a kid, so being able to express myself through solos was an escape for me for a lot of different reasons. So I wanted to, my whole thing in my head was, okay, I want to still be able to play what I hear and what I feel, but do I always have to do it over or through jazz medium? You know what I'm saying? To ultimately find or have my own music where I could play and express myself the way I wanted to without it being considered a jazz record or a jazz.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? That's been, I'd say, through my career, probably, I wouldn't call it a struggle, but definitely trying to find that niche that works for me, and trying to incorporate all my influences into a sound where I can be myself without that being a problem.
Did you play? Let me ask you this: a lot of people that go into R&B or what have you. Did you play in the church? Were you active in a church at all, or play in a church band?
I missed the whole church experience. I have a lot of respect for a lot of these musicians who grew up in the church and still play in the church. I mean, some of the greatest musicians walking around now are church players. I mean, they play their butts off. I missed that part. My dad had me in the nightclubs, from Thursday through Sunday.
Let's talk about that.
Doing jazz. So, to him, he used to call that church,
Right. I can see that.
He used to be on my ass. I mean, and as much as he was on my ass, I still have to say, I probably didn't do half the shit he told me to do. I was like, I don't want to do that. I probably did. Or it's a lot of shit I probably should have learned that didn't learn, but, it was what it was.
Yeah. You're a kid, man. But, so let's go back because, I think that's also a very rich period in your life. I mean, here you are in school, underage, and you're out gigging, and playing in the clubs and stuff. So talk about that a little bit. Like, what grade period was that between?
7th grade.
Okay, 7th grade.
7th grade.
Wow.
That was. I mean, from the outside, people would be like, wow, that's great, blah, 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 blah. But that was an issue in our house. My mother was not really excited about that at all. You didn't really have, too much control over it at the end of the day. At the end of the day, it was going to be what, my dad wanted to do as far as I was when it came to music. So, for her, it was, she kind of felt like a piece of my childhood was being taken away, and that was always a battle in the house. My dad was this is what he do, this is what he does, this is what we need to do, blah 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 blah. But she was like, well, he needs to still be a kid, blah blah, blah. So I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, there's pros and cons to that, but what are you gonna do? I mean, I don't really have any regrets about any of that. I think my dad did what he thought was best, what he saw in me. So I love my dad for that. I think I think if he didn't do what he did, I wouldn't have had the career that I did have. I wouldn't have been able to do what I did do, or wouldn't have been prepared for the stuff that came along in my early 20s. By the time I left high school, I was more prepared for a lot of things, and in my opinion, than I am now.
Right.
Because like I told you, I recently just started playing again. I didn't play for over a decade. So
whoa,
Yeah, I'm 2.5 years back in, so I still kind of feel like I'm still catching back up. Trying to get back to where I was before I started.
Rebirth, man.
Yeah,
Rebirth.
it's been a
That's
personal journey, but
what's your astrological sign?
I'm a Gemini.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, air sign.
yeah.
Just like
I-
Prince. Just like Prince.
Yeah, that's true.
A lot of us guitar players and musicians are Geminis out here. Miles, Jesse,
I was going to ask you about Jesse Johnson because
listen, that's
when I was thinking that you probably vibe with him, and I feel a vibe between you and him.
Oh,
You know,
I was a big Jesse Johnson fan, man. No shit. When we were in 11th grade, they don't have them anymore, but record stores, and they had these in stores where
Yeah.
artists would come to town and
Peaches.
Exactly. You get to go to the record store, meet the artist, and blah blah blah. So anyway,
Southgate.
Exactly, that's exactly where it was. So when the what album was that? The 1999 album was out. The Walk Times that was 777. Vanity
Yeah.
it just came out. So they were advertising, more stay in the time. And Vanity Six gonna be at the record store, blah blah blah. So listen, I cut school the whole day. Because the only person I wanted to meet at the time, for real, was Jesse Johnson.
Yeah.
Yeah. We get in line, we get up to the thing, and the only people that are there are Morris and Vanity. I was like, really? So yeah, I've never got to meet him. I would love to jam with him. But yeah, Jesse was definitely a big influence,
Okay.
with the pink suits.
Yeah, I mean, Jesse's a bad boy. Jesse could play.
Yeah.
He rips, no shit.
And I have to pull this into it. And David Embry was dressing like Morris Day at the time. He had the hair.
But I wanted to go back. You're paying respects to your fathers, and what comes to mind are like fathers of like the Williams twins or Tiger Woods' father.
Right.
These fathers that invest. And yeah, it's like, and Joe Jackson,
I was going to bring that up.
Yeah. I mean, it's a real existential type of thing, because I used to joke about Joe Jackson, like, well, if Joe Jackson didn't beat Michael's ass, would we have had the Michael Jackson that we know today?
No. That's a good point, because I definitely put my ass beat too.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So when you were talking about the dedication that your father had towards you, it made me think of these well-known fathers that often have been under fire or questionable about that, and it's a hard thing, man. It's a very it's a complicated thing, because it's like and I think it's what you make out of it,
Exactly. Like I said, I had a blast. I mean, I didn't feel like I was missing my childhood while it was happening. Now I have to say, when I got older, I mean, there are certain things that happened in my personal life that, okay, this stems back to not, to missing that part of my life.
Right.
You don't realize some of that shit till you get older, and then you have to go and figure that shit out. But at the same time, if I had to do it again, I still think the way that it was done was still the best thing for me at the end of the day.
Right.
So I can't really, complain about that. But so yeah, I mean, when we got to 11th grade, that's when I was really like, okay, I want to explore other music. I want to play other music. And I was in my aunt's band too at the time.
Okay.
That's it. So we were still, doing the swinging thing. And then I started playing with, prior to that, we had a band called Synergy. You remember Kerwin Kane, my man?
Yes.
We want to know where he is. Where is he? Where is he?
We went to Berkeley together. And
yes.
Going separate ways once we got to school. But Kerwin was a bad boy.
Where is he?
I don't know where Kerwin is, man.
Nobody knows, man.
No clue, man. I have no clue.
I remember the hair.
And he was funny. He was like a class clown, like I used to love having him in class and just cutting up.
Hell of a bass player, dude.
Yeah.
He was bad back then. But then we had this band called Synergy. It was me, Kerwin,
Mike
Trent.
Yeah.
That was a dope little band, though. We were doing things for a minute. And then after that, I joined Levert's band. That's when I started playing with Gerald.
Oh wow, okay.
Exactly. So when I started doing that, that's really when me and my father started, going with this, by now we moving into, closer to our senior year where this is when Levert, I would say at the time, was really getting hot around the city, really doing, really getting popular. You kind of knew that something was about to happen, and so when we graduated, we cut that, the first Levert album, not the Pop album, but a lot of people don't know there was an album before that with this record called I'm Still On It. So we did that like right after high school.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah, I was
Did
playing
not know.
So, through I think in the 11th grade, 12th grade, and then we went to Philly and we recorded that that first Levert album, and then I went to Berkeley.
Okay. Wow.
When I went to Berkeley, that was when I was like, okay, I'm gonna start exploring, other stuff that I wanted to do. I started fucking around with, different instruments like around 11th grade, 12th grade, seriously, but I wanted to explore that,
Yeah.
I wanted to sing. I hadn't really sung before, but I felt like I wanted to try that. And then I was, I had started writing songs, and it's like, okay, I need to explore that because I felt like, I got something here. So,
okay.
So I go to Berkeley. Story about that. So when I leave Levert, I go to Berkeley. There was one show that was coming up right when I left, and it was at the Front Row. So I flew back to do the show at the Front Row, and I was in school. So I didn't tell my parents, as not even, your mom's, all your mom and all her friends probably go be at the show. I'm thinking I'm being sneaky and shit, right? My bag. I do the show at the Front Row. I get on the plane. I go back to school like nothing ever happened. The first thing my mother says, "Yo, why didn't you tell me you was playing at the Front Row?" I got busted. So that was the last gig I did with Levert.
Wow.
Last gig. So, I mean, that was my first glimpse, or into the business, the next level. You know what I'm saying? It was like, okay, I want to do that. I want to be around that. Where does that go? So
right.
So here we are at Berkeley, and my first year, I meet still one of my closest friends to this day. This cat named Gene Lake, drummer, bad boy. Matter of fact, Gene is he asked to do this gig with me on the 3rd. I had my other drummer couldn't do the gig, so I was talking to him, and he was like, "Yo, man, can I play?" And I was like, "Oh man, that'd be great." We've been trying to play together for years. We haven't been able to get together in recent years. So anyway, we became really good friends, and he was into the whole Minneapolis thing, like I was. So we got really tight. Now, Gene, if you, I don't know if you know anything about him, he's world-class drummer. He's incredible. He done worked with a lot of people.
No, I'm not familiar. Yeah.
Yeah, he was David Sanborn's drummer for about 25 years. He worked in Indego Cello, Surface. I mean, he done a lot of different jazz. He's a bad boy. So we started a band while we were at in Berkeley, and I'd say that it was definitely Minneapolis influence. We would take it, try to have our own little twist on it, And this cat named Brian McNeil, bass player, another bad boy. Matter of fact, Brian, guy I'm talking about now who plays bass, I eventually called him to do the I'll Be Sure gig with me when I got the gig with I'll Be Sure. So if you ever see the Rescue Me video with me and I'll Be Sure, the guy playing bass, that's Brian. Okay. So the band was dope. So we after
I have a question.
Second year, it was like, I'm cool with the school shit. My whole thing was, I want to go to New York. I'm ready to make some money. I'm ready to fucking play. Fuck the school shit. So leave school. I'm 19, about to be 20, right? I take all my money. I buy a bus ticket to New York. By the time I get to New York, I got $7 left. And that's it. And I never look back. So
right on.
Gene is me and Gene are back in New York now. So we decide, let's do this band thing and see how far I could go. So we gigging around New York, doing our shit, and getting back to Levert. Gerald actually was one of the first. Growing up listening to Gerald sing, you think you ain't no singer, okay?
Right. I remember in English class, people were cracking on him about his demo tape. Yeah.
So you know, he knew what I was doing, and you know,
Yeah.
I had played him some of the stuff, some of the demos and stuff. And he was the first person that told me, "Yeah, man, you know, you got a little something there. You should sing." I was like, man, I was pumped. I was like, okay,
Yeah.
I'm gonna give it. I still don't think I'm a great singer. You know what I'm saying? I like what I do. It is what it is. But Gerald had a lot to do with me. Like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm gonna give it a shot. I'm gonna do what I do.
Yeah.
So he hooked me up with Harry Coombs, who was also their manager at the time. So while I was in New York, Harry was managing, you know, me and Gene's band.
Okay.
We were gigs around there, and we almost got signed. You know, we were. It was dope. So before we could ever really get that shit off the ground, everybody in the band started getting gigs with other artists going out on tour, and that also kind of split us up. So this kind of leads into my first gig outside of my own shit in New York, and I was about 20 at this time, 19, about to be 20. So all this happened like so fast, like within that year.
Okay.
And then I got the first gig with Shirley Jones. Remember Shirley Jones and the Jones Girls?
Yeah.
So I did that gig, and then later that year, back to Gene was like, "Yo, you know, they having auditions for Melissa Morgan, man. You should go and check that out." I was like, I wasn't even trying to go. I was like, man,
Yeah.
oh, man, you should go. So I went down there to the auditions. Line, like crazy line, you know, line all up and down the hallway. So I didn't really think I was gonna get the gig or anything like that. But
Was this all guitar players or just all different? Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
The day I went, they were doing guitar players. So that particular day was a line of guitar players.
Wow.
So I went in there, and my turn came up, did my thing. 5 minutes later, I got the gig.
Okay.
I was like,
Yeah.
So I called Gene. I'm like, yo, I got the gig. He's like, go for it. He said, I told you. So anyway, that was getting that gig. That really kind of changed the rest of my career after that. I never really had to audition for tours after that. So did that. That was my first big major tour. Now we went out with, it was Melissa Morgan and Keith Sweat. This is when I met Keith.
Yeah.
And everybody in that band. So Keith Sweat. So that tour was awesome. Toward the end of that tour, Keith's guitar player had I forget why he wasn't at a couple gigs. So basically I filled in for his guitar player. So I would do Melissa's show. Then I go back, change clothes. I come out, I do Keith's.
Oh wow.
And that's when, you know, I developed a relationship with him and Vincent Davis, who was president of Entertainment Electra, which was the label that he was on at the time.
I know Electra. Yeah.
Right. Which is also the label that In Touch was on, which is the group I eventually became a part of.
Gerald. Yeah.
I'm all over the place.
LSG.
Right?
Yeah.
So,
I got Electra stories for you at another time. But yeah.
So then, after that, after we finished the Melissa tour, I got a call to do the I'll Be Sure thing. And so that's when I brought in my boy Brian. And then that tour changed everything. You know, that shit led to a lot of stuff after that. And that was probably, man, listen, I can't.
Was that domestic and international? I mean,
we went to, with that, that tour that I'm talking about, we didn't go overseas. It was the Any Heartbreak tour. I don't know if you remember that tour. It was New Edition. Yeah. So that was just local. But it was one of the biggest tours probably, you know, during that time. And that shit was crazy.
Did you meet Quincy? Did you meet Quincy Jones? Was he connected with Al B at that point?
Excuse me. I never met Quincy in person on that tour, but him and Al were really tight. But that was a great tour. Had a lot of fun. Man, I mean,
you were like in your early 20s, right? So like on this tour.
21, 22 by now.
Wow.
Yeah. You know, my friends at Berkeley, they still going to class and shit.
Oh,
I should have been. I'm on stage trying to be a rock star and shit, shooting videos and shit. But great. That was like some of the best time of my life.
Yeah. Who on the tour did you bond with? You know, that kind of maybe like took you under the wing, if applicable. Like, was there anybody like from the other group musicians?
I would have to say more of that went on probably when I was out on the Melissa tour, because that was like
Okay.
my first big tour. That was like my first time really out, on the tour circuit.
Okay.
And yeah, the band back then, they really looked out for me. I ain't gonna lie. Melissa Morgan's background singers, the drummer from Melissa Morgan at the time, this cat named Michael Faulkner. I mean, he kind of took me under his wing, kind of showed me the ropes, what it was like on tour. So yeah, man, much love, mad respect to them, for real. They definitely looked out for a brother.
How long did these tours last? Would they go through the summer or go through the winter, or would they go through a couple of years?
Al's tour, I'd have to say total, that was probably like a year experience. I mean, I'm sure there's tours that are longer than that, without a doubt.
Yeah.
That tour, we weren't out like 2 years or anything like that.
Did you have
close to a year? But we covered like every major arena in the country. When we were out in LA, we were at the Forum for like 7 days in a row. So
wow,
yeah, that shit was crazy.
Yeah.
Now,
So
when I used to watch New Edition show, like when we would finish our show, but before we would come on first, and then Bobby. I used to watch Bobby's show too. Bobby was a hell of an entertainer.
Yeah.
And then I would watch New Edition show. But when you would watch New Edition, man, we grew up with the Candy Girl and all.
Yeah.
So by the time we did the Heartbreak tour, they were grown men by then. So you can just see how polished they were. I mean, so fucking smooth, bro. I mean, polished. You could tell they had been doing that a lot. And I used to just love to watch their show. It was just flawless,
Right. Wow. Man. Did you see the New Edition, that miniseries that came out a couple years ago? Did you ever have a chance to watch that? It's pretty good. Yeah.
And they had a Bobby Brown spinoff, which was very good as well.
Oh, I didn't see that yet.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, Bobby was to me, he's still one of the greatest entertainers from that area. From that era, without a doubt. He knew how to work and command the stage under whatever condition you may think he might have been in.
Yeah,
he was a bad boy for real.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt.
So after that tour, I did a little. I worked with Brenda K. Starr for a minute. You remember her?
Oh yes, up in New York. Yeah,
did a couple gigs with her, and after that, I ended up going out with In Touch. Now at the time, In Touch had the song "Too Hype" out, and it was just two of them in the group. So because of, by then I had developed a relationship with, entertainment with Vincent from seeing me work with Melissa and with Keith. We kind of developed a relationship. So he knew who I was. So he had an idea, and he was like, and at the time I was kind of trying to shop my own stuff. So I was like, okay, I've been on tour now. Let me try the next phase. You know what I'm saying? So I'm shopping demos. I'm playing demos all over the place for everybody. So Vincent was like, once you go on this tour, and we'll see what happens after that. So after the tour, I was asked to join the group. I was like, oh, shit. So that was, playing with In Touch led to my first record deal. Now, about this time, I'm like 25. Yeah, about 25, about to be 26. Because by the time the album came out, which was 91, I was about 26. So that led to my first record deal. So that was when it was like, okay, now I'm an artist. So all this shit about me talking about wanting to be a singer, now I really got to do this shit.
Right. Show and prove.
I'll never forget this. So that was an experience, because that was the first time that I really had to like, okay, no, I have to sing now. So that was interesting, but I liked it. So I just kept doing it, and just got to a point where, okay, this is how I sing. I'm not trying to be this. I'm not trying to be that.
Right.
I have my own little thing, and I'm just gonna stick to that. And I stay inside my singing limits, and just kind of went from there. But that also led to the production side of me. And after that, I definitely wanted to write and produce and do more shit like that. So anyway, long story short, put out the album. We had 2 singles off that album. They both charted. We had some issues, and we ultimately went our separate ways. So this was so by 93, 94, I kind of find myself like, okay, what do I do next? So Jersey at the time. And so Keith, he had a little production team that he was working with. He would call producers down there and, you know, to do, you know, songs and try to get songs placed for some of his artists, whatnot. So,
meaning Keith Sweat, right? Just so the audience, yeah.
So I did that for a minute. I didn't stay. I didn't do that too long, but during this time is when I met another producer named Jerry Flowers. Bad boy, he's incredible. And it's also when I met Silk, and it ended up becoming, you know, developing a friendship with Lil G. So I did that for a minute, and then now we move into some dark years that I don't really talk about.
Hey, if you don't, we're not here to press you. If you don't want to,
no, I don't have a problem with it. But I mean that period was very important for how things ended up for me later. But so between mid '90s, late '90s, up until I started having kids, I went through, you know, some substance abuse problems, you know, issues with, you know, I used to love cocaine. I ain't gonna lie.
That's a hell of a drug.
I did. I had an issue with that. So ultimately had to deal with that. But that led to catching the case in '98. And looking back, that was probably, I don't want to say one of the best things, but it was at that time. You know, ended up, I was, you know, a car full of shit, got caught, you know, ended up getting charged with, you know, drug trafficking and all type of other shit. Got indicted by the state of New York and New Jersey. I mean,
New York, New Jersey. Ooh.
I was coming across the GW Bridge.
Oh.
So just for the record, everything in the car was all mine.
Right. Oh, wow. You hit the lotto.
Man, listen,
you know
what I mean? So, you know, dealing with that took a big chunk out of my music career. You know, shit got really dark around that time. And that was the first time that I probably didn't play for a minute. And long story short, during this time, my kids was born in '99, and that had a lot to do with me turning my shit around. You know? You know, so I made it through the probation, went to rehab, and you know, I've been clean out for 23, almost 24 years now.
Right.
Oh, good.
Congratulations.
Thank you, sir. So after that, you know, it was like when I got out of rehab, again, first time I hadn't played in a while, so it was like, okay, gotta get back music, you know. Again, music ultimately saved my life. So did some demos. Now the boy's mom, she was a songwriter, artist, entertainer. And so we got together and decided to do a project together. So we cut some demos, and long story short, that led to a project that I did with George Clinton back in
there we go, full circle.
Yeah, back in 2004. Now that was probably, I couldn't tell you. Like,
Tell us the best way you can.
Feeling of working with, you know, somebody like that. I mean, that's like, you never think you're going to be able to do. That's like working with Prince or Miles Davis.
Oh yeah.
Like, but you know, so yeah, I was that experience was incredible. Spent a lot of time.
What period was that? Was that Some of My Best Jokes Are Friends? Was he soloing? What were you doing together?
Well, we did an album on an independent label in 2004, and one of the guys that we had called in to help with the project had connections with George and that whole organization. So we had sent some demos out. He sent George the stuff we were working on, and George agreed to come and do the record with us. Wow. And that's how I met him. So he came, we did the record. We were doing a lot of shows at the time. So he would come out and be a guest on some of our shows. And every once in a while, you know, he would allow, you know, me and Malika to come up on stage with them, you know, jam with them. So that was, I mean, just like I said, that whole entire experience was just like, you know, it's like a dream. I still like, oh shit, wake me up.
Right.
So which leads to another story that I was telling you earlier. So during this time, I meet George, I meet a lot of the people in the band. Never got to really talk, spend a lot of time with Mike Hampton. Played the solo that changed that ultimate solos that was probably one of the biggest influences in my early career, right? So anyway, during that time, never really got to talk to him. So years later, this was a couple years ago, George and them were in town, I think about 2 years ago, at the MGM.
Okay.
All right, so I call some people that I know, and ended up getting on All Access Pass, getting to go backstage and hang out, get to see some of the people that worked with me on the album back then and everything. It was great. Had a great time. And finally, now this is like 20 years, almost 20 years after I worked with him the first time, right?
Right.
You would think you'd be all comfortable and shit, but after 20 years, I'm still like, starstruck. I'm still like, what the fuck?
Fanboy, yeah.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? So I finally get to actually talk to Mike Hampton, right? Listen, so we talking. Now, Mike, he was just, he was real cool, didn't say too much. He just had this vibe like, okay, I'm just going to let you stand here and just sound like an idiot.
Just blabber. Yeah.
So, of course, I'm sitting there, just trying to figure out how to have a conversation with him, right? And the first dumb thing I said, so you played the solo on Needy, right? That's what you got, Q. You feel me?
Yeah.
It was cool. So we ended up talking. So no disrespect, Mike Hampton. But that was I just found that to be funny because you finally get to meet somebody that you've been wanting to sit and talk to.
Right.
And that's the first thing that comes out. But it's all good. It was all good.
Hey, I have a question. Where was Eddie Hazel in this timeline? Was he
done? Eddie was another one of my influences, without a doubt. Like Maggot Brain was life-changing for me, and I still perform that to this day. I do my own version of it, lightweight, but it's the type of song where you kind of the vibe of that song and whatever feeling surrounds that song is I can't even describe how to say it.
Enveloped you.
It allows me to express myself in ways that I couldn't do over another type of song, if you will, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It's that Maggot Brain for me it has a spiritual element without a doubt. When I play it, I halfway through the song, I'm somewhere else. You either there with me or not.
Yeah. You're in a parallel universes.
I got hip to Eddie Hazel when I would go over to my grandmother's and hang out, with my aunts and uncles, because they were the only ones that were really playing, that type of music in my family, So I would hear that over there. And my Uncle Michael, he's the first one that ever played me Maggot Brain. I thought that shit was like, transforming. It's like, you be in a trance. So that's when I got hip to Eddie,
Yeah. Okay.
So that's when I would do that, when I would try to, just feel that vibe, because I would just go over there and be like, yo, put one of them Parliament records on, play that shit. And my uncles would put it on, but it would be years later before I really went on my own and really went back and listened to, a lot of their earlier stuff, like really outside of the hits that we all know, like, Flashlight, the ones they play at the parties, but to really listen to, everything that they were doing, man, that's some incredible shit, bro.
Yeah.
Funky shit on the planet.
Yeah. So I just think about like a couple of sentences ago, when you were saying about going over to your cousins and play the Parliament record. Was there during that time period, like you said, you're kind of having some, issues with your pops and your mom, is concerned about you playing out. Was there like any beef between like the cousins and stuff like that about like, why'd you let that boy play, come over there and listen to those records or anything like that?
Well, there were times when my grandmother would, tell my father like, yo, ease up, let him be a kid, let him, what the other kids is doing, let him play what he want to play, that type of shit.
Yeah.
not too many people got in my father's way.
Yeah.
Mhm.
He
Okay.
said something, that's what was gonna happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's just how that was,
Yeah. 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 Real
There were
talk.
times people would say that,
Yeah.
yeah. It
Yeah.
was always one of my grandmothers or somebody like that.
Yeah.
Anything.
I have to ask you this: when you were going through your dark period of time, how supportive was your father? Because I was thinking that was probably what they were trying to keep you away from, that element, because
Good question. My father,
George Clinton is notorious for that and just got off a crack like maybe 10 years ago. So,
yeah, he's doing good though. He looks
yeah.
really good. No shit. Much mad respect. But no, my father at that time, we weren't really talking a lot. We weren't really communicating. We later on kind of had our moment where we were able to squash our differences and start getting close again. But really didn't have a lot of contact with him during that period. Now in '95, I was in Boston for a minute, and he was living in Boston. Now during that time, we kind of hung out a little bit, but we hadn't really, dealt with a lot of stuff that had gone on when I was a kid. But I mean, we were cool. And then after that, after '95, we didn't really communicate until early 2000s. After the boys were born. So we never really got to talk about that. I really don't know what his opinion was about that. But she said that, my mom eventually remarried, and she was with my stepdad when all this was happening. And both my mom and my stepdad were extremely supportive during that time. I was looking at 15 years, and they were trying to get me 15 years.
Yeah.
If it wasn't for God and my parents and a few good ass lawyers, I'd have been screwed. You feel me? So
Yeah.
they stuck with me. And man, much love, because I was that was a hard time for me.
Yeah.
Definitely not a good time, without a doubt. I'm lucky to be here, so thank God for that. No shit.
Yeah. Real talk, man.
Yeah. That's
So you fit.
not a joke.
Go ahead. I didn't mean it.
I was saying the addiction is, that's not a joke. That's some serious shit. And
Yeah.
if that's an issue for yourself, definitely, you got to accept that shit for one. But you need to go deal with that. And, the acceptance is one of the hardest things for anybody addicted to anything to do. It's hard to tell yourself, I'm fucked up. I'm a drug addict. You feel me? It's really hard to do that. But I mean, it is what it is. It's what you do with that after is
100%.
Is what matters. I'll be a drug addict, the rest of my fucking life, but I know I don't have to do drugs if I choose not to. And
right.
I'm a better person because I don't,
Yeah.
It is what it is.
Yeah, my mother worked in substance abuse for about 20 years over Cleveland Treatment Center. She worked at a methadone clinic. So, I'm very familiar with that and the people that struggle. Hey, there's an addiction around every dark corner. I mean, there's an addiction with our cell phones and information and food.
You're
it's
exactly
just, there's one in the wait. So, and speaking to David Embry, I think I recall him talking about you coming in contact through your aunt with George Benson. Is that true?
Yeah, that was the early years. Okay, I'll go back to tell you that story. So back to middle school, 7th grade. During that time, George used to come to Cleveland every September. I can almost remember September 7th, I think it was. It was like clockwork. He would come every September 7th, front row. And my dad would always have tickets. So, like I said, he used to make me listen to so much jazz. So for me, George Benson I was probably more attracted to what he was doing as opposed to a lot of other jazz guitarists at the time, just because of the commercial, the commercial.
It's mainstream,
compared to everybody else.
Reason,
I felt like I was still kind of in tune with what was going on, but I was still pleasing my dad at the same time. Not to mention that he was just an incredible guitar player. It was just like, no matter what type of music you played, you had to be like, God damn, you feel me? So my dad, he knew I was a big George Benson fan. So my dad used to record like all my little gigs. Like I have all the tapes to this day.
Oh,
good.
nice.
Good. Yes.
Lots of this shit, which is ultimately how I got into Berkeley. So anyway, he made this tape, and he sent the tape to George's manager. So we never thought that we was going to get a response, but they actually responded. And when they were on one of the years that they were coming, they were like, "Yo, bring him to the show." Blah 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 blah. So we went, got to go backstage, got to meet him in person. We took pictures, and I actually got to sit down and play with him backstage. He got the
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was probably one of the earliest, like really like, oh shit, this is what I'm supposed to do. It was like confirmation, like, yeah, you're supposed to play guitar. I never turned out as good as George, but he had a lot to do with me wanting to be a guitar
Didn't he give you a guitar?
He gave me an amplifier.
Amplifier. Okay.
Right off stage. It was Mini Brute 3. Never forget. Polytone Mini Brute 3. Nice little amp, really. I did have a George Mason guitar, which my father bought me.
Oh wow. Okay.
I did have a GB10, and I still wish I had that. But the story behind that, see, the story behind everything. I ended up selling that GB10 when I left Berkeley, or to have a custom pink Telecaster made to take to New York to go out on tour with.
Okay.
The Minneapolis shit.
Yeah.
Shit. I went and fucking sold that shit. It had a pink telly made. I was tripping. I wish I,
Was that Jesse Johnson influence, that pink Telecaster?
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
So I would be. Let me real quick.
Yeah.
I'd be remiss if I didn't bring this up. My fondest memories of you, before I even knew that you picked up an instrument, was you riding around Lomond by the kickball field with your silver Schwinn. I think it was a Stingray. You were riding it, never using both tires, always popping wheelies.
Oh, yeah.
And just quiet, just smiling, just in your own world. I think that was your first original guitar.
Man, listen, I used to love that swing. You talking about? I was the wheelie master, bro.
Yeah,
wheelies, bro. That was
wow. That's such a great memory.
Was good though. Chris Brown was good. Me and Chris used to do wheelies together up in Lomond, just for blocks and blocks. But I could do a wheelie from Reedham almost to Lomond, just blocks and blocks. I had
wow.
Yeah, that's funny. That bike, that was that. Man, listen.
Whatever happened to that bike? Do you know where that should be in your museum?
I have no idea. I wish I still had that thing. No, I ain't gonna lie. That was a bad bike.
Was that a Stingray? It had that silver spiral thing right in front.
It was like Schwinn's top of the line dirt bike, bro. It had the big knobby tires, the thick man.
Yeah.
That was like, if you had a Huffy, you wish you had a Scrambler.
Wow.
Do you have pictures of that? Your next album should have a picture of that.
Oh,
on
yeah, I do.
It's called Stingray.
I'm sure, for sure. We got pictures of that bike. That was my shit. That's funny you remember that.
That's a great memory.
Yeah, man.
I wanted to ask you real quick. What are your thoughts on Mint Condition?
Man, Mint Condition. Man, listen, incredible, man. What are you talking about?
Yeah. I mean, when we're talking about that sound, that era, I feel like they don't get enough light.
They were the last of that era.
Yeah.
That kind of took you out of the whole Minneapolis area. But what I did like was they kind of had their own twist to it. So they kind of kept that whole vibe going after the Minneapolis shit kind of had faded a little bit, and were able to maintain that and have hits, which was not easy to do, because they were the only group during that time who could get away doing that type of music. But they were just so fucking good. Like Stokely, oh my God, he's like,
I was trying to remember. I remember his name. Yeah,
Stokely was walking the planet. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And not only that, I don't know if y'all know, but he's a hell of a drummer as well. Like, so all the musicianship in that band is just off the chain. So
well, Stokely is toured with the guitar player with Mint Condition is related to Terry Lewis, and they have a purple. He used to play a purple guitar, the cloud guitar. And Stokely tours either with the Revolution or one of the Prince's former bands. He sings. Yeah. And also He was touring as Rick James. There was a play on Rick James. He was touring last year doing that. So
shit.
I love Stokely. And you're wearing Stokely's glasses. Those are Stokely's glasses.
Synchronicity.
Incredible, bro. So yeah, Mint Condition is definitely one of my favorite bands out of that era. Now, if you want to talk about R&B, I would have to say my favorite R&B band, this is my personal, would be Jodeci. I think Jodeci, they had a thing that nobody else had, and they were definitely the soundtrack of a lot of Black people's.
Oh man, like, what
if they going on, right?
Maybe making music.
Oh yeah. No,
now you're having my baby.
Jodeci was dope.
You know what? You should watch it if you haven't. If you should watch this, I think it's on Netflix. It's it's a 4-part series on Stax. The beginning of Stax and the Stax in Memphis with Isaac Hayes and everybody. You got to watch that. They said this is my favorite part.
That's where soul music's from down there.
Yeah, but bunch of people were going to University of Memphis. They said if you went out and came back and you heard the Isaac Hayes Hot Buttered Soul album, that means you better find somewhere else to sleep for the rest of the night because you're
classic.
Yeah, you got to watch that. Yeah, that is these documentaries that are coming out, and Sly Stone's Questlove produced a Sly Stone documentary. We should be seeing that real soon.
Oh, I definitely want to see that.
So who are your biggest influences from a guitar hero point of view? Who did you listen to, and who do you sound like? Who do you get your sound like from?
That's a good question because, let's start with the influences. I'd have to say Hendrix, George Benson, Ernie Isley, and Santana, Mike Hampton. Specifically, that one. It's so much inside that one solo that you'd be surprised. Eddie Hazel. Prince, of course, without a doubt. I'd have to say, as far as growing up goes, that would be like and Jesse Johnson, of course. That would be my main go-to. Now, there are tons of incredible, talented guitar players out here, especially today. They got some kids coming up today that will make us all want to go rethink our careers. It's doing incredible shit. Much love. I'm glad to see that. I love to see young kids, doing that. And I think we might be able to save certain music.
Yeah.
That we may feel we're losing. So
it's vital.
So outside of my influences, I think as I got older, I just learned to become influenced by everything around me. You know what I'm saying? So I listen to everybody, man. But those as a child, those were probably, definitely my go-tos, without a doubt.
I relate all these up and coming virtuosos, especially basketball, with the crossover. This next generation is the YouTube generation. You can stop and start and watch people do things and learn things. And did you learn basically from your ear? Can you listen to something and decipher it?
That's for me. For me, I'm gonna clear this up because a lot of people, I think, have different ideas about that when it comes to
notions.
Yeah, basically, I am from my ear, from the heart. Whatever I hear in my head, I try to play it. And that goes back to when I was a child. Now, I had lessons. I had guitar teachers. And honestly, I didn't do half the shit I was told to do. Half the shit my dad really wanted me to practice. I'd probably be a much better musician if I had. I think what really got me, through was my passion for wanting to play and knowing that I would hear shit, and I just wanted to figure out how to do that on my own. I didn't know where that shit was coming from, if it was just from one particular place or all the music that I just grew up hearing. Music was played constantly in my life, so I'm constantly being pumped with all type of shit. So eventually, I'm just wanting to play what's in my head. You know what I'm saying? So I'm rambling. I don't even know. What
Do you write music and read music?
Well, yeah.
Were you disciplined enough with that?
No, I am not. I never got that good at reading music, even going to Berkeley. I'm still not a great reader. I'll tell people that right now. Everything I do is, based off of improvisation or what I hear in my head, and what I managed to remember learning when I did take lessons as a child, and from shit that I've learned and picked up from listening to people as I've been older and vibing with other musicians and listening to records and so on and so on, like most other musicians. But getting back to reading, I just never really, got that together, or never really worked on that like other aspects of my plan, So my plan was always, above the reading, if you will. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So
the question was, who would you relate your playing to, stylistically?
That's a good question too, because I try not to say I sound like any one person. My ultimate goal is for somebody to be like, he sounds like Hugh, or not. No, he sounds like so and so, or he sounds like so and so. You know what I'm saying? I'm not out here trying to sound like anybody.
Mm-hmm. Well, the reason why I asked that, a lot of people love to compare Prince with Hendrix, but Prince felt that he was more Santana-like.
I agree with that. I would definitely say Prince was more Santana-like than Hendrix. Although you can definitely hear Hendrix in his. I mean, how could you not? I mean, Hendrix, he was everybody's main influence from that era. So what are you gonna do? You can't. It's a whole bunch of people, clones of Hendrix. Not to say Prince was a clone.
So now I'm trying to entrap you. So who are you? Who do you sound like? I'm trying to figure out. Like,
I think
you like to solo a lot, so
I do.
Lenny Kravitz like, or you?
I do. I mean, that's like I said. It's hard for me to answer that question. I think at times you may hear some Prince influenced solos. I think at times you may hear some P-Funk influenced solos. I think at times you may hear some Santana influenced solos.
Can you go West Montgomery?
Yes, I can do that as well. I haven't played. I don't really do a lot of that anymore, but yeah, I can do that. I mean, West was one of George's biggest influence. So, when you was growing up listening to George, you couldn't listen to George without going to check out West Montgomery either.
Yeah, exactly. And you can't listen to Benson without thinking about West Montgomery.
Without a doubt. So yeah, I would like to say that I sound like myself with, and you would hear influences from people that I was influenced by, but I don't, when I'm soloing, I'm not trying to model myself after any one particular person. I think people that I've been influenced by, we're like sponges, man. You are
100%.
What you listen to. You feel
Yeah.
me? You don't necessarily
sounding like Quentin.
that hard to pull from your inner self what you listen to when you're expressing yourself, if you will. You know what I'm saying? That becomes part of who you are. You're naturally going to be attracted to a certain vibe or a certain type of feeling that your personality or who you are is, how all that shit lines up, and that's going to manifest itself in the way you play. So,
well, I'll tell you what, when I saw you, I got Jesse Johnson vibes. I did.
That's fine.
That's the vibes I got.
I mean, you got people, people are going to get what they get. They're going to hear what they hear. They're going to tell you how they feel. They're going to, I can't really control that. I mean, ultimately the people will decide the answers to a lot of those questions. Me, I'm just trying to play. I'm just trying to be.
He's just being Quentin.
Right. I'm just trying to be a better version of myself. I don't claim to be the greatest guitar player that ever lived. I don't. So many talented people out here, but I just want to just continue to be a better version of what I do. If you like what I do, you like what I do. If you don't like what I do, that's fine too.
Constant elevation.
I can only myself, and play what I hear and feel. So you either feel that, you don't.
So what brought you back to music after your hiatus? How did you find your way back?
Back after the George thing, like I said, I was with the boys' mom at the time. I did a rock album, which leads to all the shows that are, and what we're doing now. It was when we first recorded the Poor Little Rich Boy album. This was right afterwards, and when we did that album, and we were getting ready to start trying to really move it and push it, and there were some issues that were going on that I didn't really inside the camp that I didn't really agree with. Long story short, I just felt like at the time it was best to walk away and revisit that project later. There was issues going on in my personal life at the time, and so we just kind of squashed it for temporarily. So again, during that time, trying to figure out what I'm gonna do next. So my personal life kind of took over at that point, and again, fading into another era of not really playing. So we move up to about 2010. I'm in Maryland, living in Maryland at the time, and long story short, me and the boys' mom decide that it's just best for the boys to stay with me for a while. So me and the boys leave, and we come back home about around this time. It's like, I don't know, summer of 2012, I think it was. And at that point, my boys were my number one priority. I had been through a lot, but a lot of personal shit, and it was time to just rethink a lot of shit just in life, not just music, but just a lot of things. And I wanted to get them through school into college and make sure they was cool. And that's where my focus went. So I decided when we came back here in 2012 that I would, be full-time dad, if you will. You know what I'm saying? So, ironing clothes, cooking the dinner, taking them to school, taking them to practice, picking them up off the whole thing. So I made that decision not to play like that, during that time, and really devote my time to them. I didn't want to be one of them musician dads that was never home. They saw me every once in a while. I just didn't want to do that, and I just kind of wanted to be there. So that's why I chose kind of not to play out for so long. So a couple of years ago, they graduated from college. By the way, they went to St. Dominic, did very well there. They went from there and went to to Benedictine. They did extremely well there, and then they got into Fisk University down in Nashville.
Oh, right on.
Went there. They both graduated from there.
Right on.
One of them just came back home, and he's at John Carroll, getting his master's right now.
Right on.
Jaden, the other one, Justin is the one that's here. Jaden is he's in DC with his mom, and he's pursuing an acting career. He also models, and he's trying to get into the music thing too. So so when they got out of school and kind of started doing what they wanted to do, I decided now's the time for me to start playing again.
So were you still playing at home and not going out? Okay.
A little bit, not too much, not really too much of that. I'm messing around, making tracks, playing on tracks. It's a different animal when you're sitting at home playing to yourself and just laying tracks, as opposed to being on stage and having to deliver every time you got a gig. That's two entirely different animals. It's like going to the gym and as opposed to doing Pilates in your back room or some shit.
Or going to the gun range and being out there and clapping.
Exactly, two totally different things. So
yes.
So about 2.5 years ago, I decided to start playing again. So I ended up joining Realistic Soul, and that's been really good for me. Props to Realistic Soul. Much love to you guys if you listen. That had a lot to do with me getting my stuff back together. I was allowed to play and be able to really find myself again as a musician. So for the past 2.5 years, that's really what it's been for me, really trying to get back to where I was and, and keep growing from there, So getting back to the Poor Little Rich Boy project, I just felt like for some reason it was time to revisit that and re-release that and really push it the way it, should be, or try to. And I was surprised at some of the responses I was getting because of the album had been recorded so long ago. it still has an element of it not being dated. It's some timeless stuff going on in that project. And I'm not saying it because it's mine, but I think it's a good project, and it has some really good songs on there. And I had an opportunity to re-release it, and here we are. So
Yeah.
where I'm at with this new project. So we'll see what happens. Yeah.
So are you on the production side of it? Are you playing with Pro Tools and
the Poor Little Rich Boy album? I didn't produce that. I had some say in how a lot of it was constructed, but the boy's mother and myself, Malika is her name, well, from the Q and Malika project, but Malika and I wrote all the songs, and Kid Rock's producers did 5 songs on the album. So I recorded half of it in Detroit, and someone named Peter Mokrin, who lives out in LA, he produced the other half. So I did half of it out in LA. So yeah, I got to work with some really talented and high class people in the business. So the album was done and put together really well, which is another reason why I didn't want to waste it. It's too good to just sit forever.
Right.
So
I was under I thought it had been released and then you remastered it and re-released it.
It's never really formally been released.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
So, Into, I just released that recently, which is now you can download it on all the streaming platforms. So please go do that. Into
definitely will.
Please. But
we got to run a banner, man. We should have thought about that.
So this is kind of like the first time it's really been released to the public, if you will,
right? Which
I think is a plus now because it's never been heard before. It's still kind of fresh in a lot of people's ears. So I'm pumped.
And is this what you're touring on, or is this what you're playing in the clubs?
Yes, some of it. Yep. The show will be a combination of songs off this project along with some of my favorite funk records. Definitely gonna be hitting some Prince and some time in the show. So, but yeah, it's definitely stuff off this project and things and songs that are that would vibe with this project. We're doing a couple current songs that have the same type of vibe or come from the same type of place, if you will, musically. So everything is not just mine, but yeah, it is centered around this project and the single that I just released.
So
talk about that?
Yeah, what's different this time around? I mean, that's if you can add to that.
I am a lot more in control of the direction of this project, which was my main issue when we did it the first time. I just felt like there was too many people, too many cooks in the kitchen the last time. Just too many people trying to pull it in too many different directions, and none of the directions were the one I wanted to go in. That's how I felt at the time. You know what I'm saying? So this time, I definitely feel like I have more control and more say so about how it moves forward, what singles I want to put out, how I want to represent it, how I want to perform it, who I want in my band, playing with the people I want to play with. You just being able to have control over, what I know and how I feel it's really supposed to go, and not have someone else, not try to live out someone else's vision of it, because that's not the way it should be. I'm an artist, at the end of the day, and it has to be my vision. You can be a part of it, but you just can't tell me how it's supposed to go. You know what I'm saying?
What are your goals this time around? Are you producing your own music, touring?
While I'm, promoting this project, re-releasing it, if you will. Yeah, I'm in the studio working on the next project, and I will be producing that one by myself.
Do you use wah-wah or fuzz pedals?
You'd be surprised. People ask me that all the time, but I really don't use a lot of pedals. If you was to look at my pedal setup, you'd be like, "What the fuck is all your boy?"
Yeah,
really don't. I use I work the hell out of my amplifier. I know how I want my guitar to sound. So mostly I'll use a wah-wah, and that's really kind of like the main pedal I really have on the floor besides my tuner. Everything coming out of my amp. I have an amp where I can program a couple of different sounds that I like and that I use on on a regular. And I pretty much kind of stick to that. I'm not opposed to a lot of pedals. I mean, I see guitar players who have them and use them. They do their thing with them. Hey, I'm not knocking it. It's just for me, I just never really ended up being one of the people who had a lot of pedals on the floor. I just never found most of them necessary for me. I'm not knocking it,
Right. Yeah.
A lot of pedals, but I don't really use a lot of pedals. If I did not have the amp that I'm using right now, I might have a couple more basic, like I probably would have a delay, compressor, so maybe a couple other effects. But for the amp that I'm using right now, I can pretty much program those effects into the sounds that I choose, that I'm using.
Wow.
So now I don't really have to use, a big pedal board, which, and for a working musician, that's less shit you got to carry.
Right.
It's easy to pack up and out, really quick. And like I said, I just never really had the need for me personally, a lot of those pedals.
So, like, when you went on the road, how many guitars did you take with you? Did you take
when I was out with Melissa and Al? No, I actually not that many. I think 3 tops back then. I would have a main one, a backup one, and I was always buying guitars or I like that, picking up one here and then ended up selling it or trading it. 2 to 3 tops. When I was out with Al, 3. When me and Malika were doing our little promo tour with the record that we had done with George, just because I could, I took out 5. Nice. I mean, they weren't big sales, but big enough to have 5 of those. But if I were to go out again, I'd probably be back to like 3. I don't really need no more on stage than 3,
Yeah.
This time around, are you on the production side of things? Are you playing around with that?
Yes, most definitely. I'm gonna have my hands in as much of it as possible, for sure.
Hey,
I'm
man.
looking forward to the next project, though. So
I'm gonna let you in on a cool sound I discovered the other day. So if you have an electric range, right, you got the Cincy temps, the little timbali things in the center. If you play them, it's a nice, interesting sound. So next time you're at an electric stove and you see the Cincy tips, just tink on them because they sound like little timbales.
I'm gonna try that.
Yeah. So just a handy tip right there.
Yeah, I'm gonna try that.
Are you multi-instrumental? Have you picked up the drums or
drums?
Keyboard?
It's probably my worst instrument right there. I wish I could play the drums. Two of my closest friends are drummers, Mike Jenkins and Gene Lake. So you would think that after all these years of hanging out with either one of them, that I would have picked some up. But listen, I can play 2 beats though. Give me 2 beats, I play the fuck out them shits. Like I can remember the song, the Prince.
Funky Drummer.
No,
777-9311. Don't tell me you can play that.
No. That's
I got a story for you about that.
That's number. Too much for me. I'm not that good. But you remember the song "Irresistible Bitch" by Prince?
Yes.
I can play that beat.
Yes.
That beat I could play.
Yo.
It's simple shit, but drums.
Yeah.
No, I'm not a drummer.
Well, what about Tricky?
No, I can't.
So
I play a little bass. I do play bass.
Okay.
And I play piano. So those are my, and I, of course, I sing what I can sing. So that's what I do.
That's all that matters. You sing it for you.
Exactly.
You sing it for you.
Exactly.
You know.
Program the hell out of a drum machine. I tell you that.
Yeah.
Is that how you build your music up? Do you build with tracks? You play different instruments and then put them together?
It depends on. There's some songs that I write from the piano. There's some songs that I write from the bass, or from the guitar, or from a beat. It depends on whatever's in my head.
Yeah. And
songs that I tend to write from the guitar, they're definitely different than songs that I write when I'm on the piano. And the bass, when I'm starting with the bass, the song is probably going to be definitely more funky oriented.
Mm-hmm.
If I start from the guitar, it could go anyway. It could.
I can't wait till you meet up with Morning of Black Star. I can't wait.
Me too. I can't wait either. I'm so looking forward to that.
Are you a morning or evening person when it comes to your creative process?
That could be at any time, honestly.
Okay.
Honestly,
Yeah.
I mean, it hits me when it hits me, but most of the time, late night.
Yeah.
Nobody's bothering me. It's dark outside. I'm getting my mind right, if you will. I'm sitting
Yeah.
at, I can focus. So yeah, if I had to pick one, I would have to say late night.
Okay.
I got to ask you this: the state of R&B now. Like, we don't see the Jodeci's and the Silks and the Joes. We don't see them too much on the charts anymore. We see them coming through on these oldie tours. And then, R&B turned to Justin Timberlake and turned into Justin Bieber. Where do you think we are with that? Is there a place you want to take it with on this next phase?
I think, okay, how can I say this? One thing about the music business, it's always changing. It's, you have to move with the times. When we were coming up, our parents was looking at the shit we was listening to, like, what the hell is that? So here we are doing the same thing. So who are we to really judge the music yet? It is what it is. But if you want to talk about the traditional R&B that we're used to, what we would call traditional R&B as compared to R&B today, I would say that we need to find a happy balance between some of the newer R&B and not lose some of the traditional R&B. Now, I think there's some artists like October London. You heard that cat?
No, I'm familiar.
Check him out. He sounds a lot like Marvin Gaye. My point is,
I've heard him. Yeah, he did this song that sounded exactly like him about 3 or 4 years ago. Yeah, I've heard that. Yeah.
So, but I think there are a lot of upcoming artists who are still trying to hold on to that, kind of true R&B stuff. But these young kids today, R&B to them is, I'm not really sure if they know what R&B as we know it is. You know what I'm saying? They have, think about it, like Chris Brown, Bruno Mars, they might be the closest to true R&B that can be compared to what
but they're R&B light though,
now. Because now you have a lot, hip hop and just expanded into so many different areas. So you have certain versions of hip hop where you have rappers who are lightweight singing / rapping, if you will. Well, that kind of gets thrown into the R&B side, the hip hop side, so it kind of distorts everything. So
what's lost to me and my favorite R&B artists? Well, first of all, I'm a huge fan of the Roots. If you have not seen them live, make sure before you are 6 feet under that you are at a Roots concert. But Raphael Sadiq, it's almost his genre, his artistic ability has become jazz because he's not
that. Well, you could say the same thing about jazz. What is jazz today?
Yeah, and that's disappearing because the labels aren't supporting it.
No,
and music has become more of a business, especially with the advent of the internet, because the A&R doesn't. They're not training like with George Clinton couldn't even get out of Motown because they were prepping them.
Yeah,
he finally had to move to another label. So right now it's formulated. They try to do what everyone else is doing, and it's a business risk approach. It's like you're going to do an album like this, mostly like you did before, because we're going to back it and we want our money back in return. And by the way, you're not going to make any money because, like Snoop Dogg said, he sold like so many million copies and made $45,000 off of 1 million streets. So he has to make his money another way.
Yeah.
Did you see it? There's a Snoop Dogg gin and juice bowl that went on yesterday. They sponsored. It had his name in the middle of the field. I posted it on Facebook if you want to see it. It's him in the box, the press box, and it's his logo on the field, his logo on the scoreboard. It's crazy. It's crazy where, he's taking full advantage. I called it "It's a Dog's Life" because he's at the top of the heap. Yeah,
he's doing it. Yeah, it's So yeah, man, the game is it changes all the time. As far as like you said, R&B, I think we can save it. I think it should be saved. And these young kids today, like I said, you know, their version is what is their version. You know, so I'm not knocking it. It is what it is.
But it's killing me because like the Marvin Gayes and the Stacks, they were singing about what was going on and
listen
and teaching each other. We're all
like
learning.
We're gonna
it's gotta be.
Well, we want it, but it's not gonna happen. That's what that's what. Like I said, there's a few artists that are trying to hold on to. Like I said, October London. If you don't know who it is, check him out.
Yeah.
You know, you got what's that other cat's name? The songs the Lose Control, was that Jelly Roll, or I wouldn't even call that R&B, but more of a soul kind of rock thing. But anyway, there's a few records out there that you can tell that their influence is true R&B. You know what I'm saying? They're still making songs like that. But what the young kids are listening to today, I mean, like I said, it is what it is. We can't, us old people have to wrap our heads around the fact that this is music of the day. This doesn't mean that it's necessarily bad. You know what I'm saying? It's just not what we were used to. You know, like I actually like some of the newer stuff. You know, we black people are geniuses. You know what I'm saying? Even if you don't like trap music, listen, the beats is the funkiest shit ever. Okay, these young kids is coming up with some ingenious shit, you know, incredible music. So I mean, it all depends on how you look at it. You know, you can't look at it with the mindset of, well, that's not Marvin Gaye. Well, if you do that, you're gonna ruin it. You're gonna miss what the kids do like about it.
And George Clinton did agree with you, so I will give you that. But just the diversity along, you know, within the genre, it seems like there's not a lot of diversity from what I see. But, you know, I'm old.
Yeah, man, you just have to look at it with an open mind.
It's just where it is what it is right now, you know? I mean,
but, you know, with all that said, there is room for the traditional and classic shit. You know, there's people that still draw themselves to the old school shit. There's a market for that. You know, people are still into that. There's some young kids coming up today that's, like I said, keeping that shit alive. So it's not dead yet.
You know what killed me? Did you see Beyonce's halftime at it was Christmas? You could go see it. She's an unbelievable performer.
Yeah, she is.
And she did this country thing. And she didn't get nominated for any country awards. Meanwhile, black folks invented the banjo, invented country music, and can't even chart on the country chart. It blows my mind.
Well, I think
in this day and age,
I think a lot of that is politics. You know, we all know who runs that whole country scene right there, and you know, they're just not gonna just give it away. You feel me? You got to come in there and work for it, but that is what it is. We all know what that is. That's politics. That has nothing to do with what's really real. So if you can see past that, you know what that shit is.
And I
would also say, you know, the UK. And particularly some of the DJs over there, BBC Radio 6, they do a good job of introducing like future sounds, you know, of R&B and stuff. Because I've heard a lot of great R&B out of the UK, and I'm just like, wow, you know, that you're not going to hear here unless you know, you know. I mean, like even like this group, they're called SAULT, SAULT. They're very, you know. They're like a collective, like A Morning Black, and but you see the tradition, and they have a following online. You know, you should check them out. So
I will.
Were you feeling the neo soul movement? That was my last, greatest, most
D'Angelo, man, D'Angelo, hands down,
without
hands down,
the soul Aquarians
and Michelle, you know. Yeah, they are.
I like. I don't know if y'all remember Chico DeBarge's album.
Yes, Chico. Yes,
album, bro.
Yes, People slept on Chico, man.
Sir. So, the neo soul thing was that was like like the new R&B for us.
I was so grateful for that. Yeah,
it extended the whole R&B thing, and now. You know, these young kids, to them, that's almost old school R&B. Is that crazy?
Yeah, it replaced that. It's just like Kobe replacing Jordan.
Exactly.
And those arguments will always be there.
So, let's talk about this show you got coming up. We got it. We got to run it on the ticker tape.
All right.
Yeah. Beachland Ballroom, right? And so
Right.
you're headlining with who?
Well, it's a co-bill.
Okay.
Myself and Esther Fitz, who
Okay.
she's an incredible artist. I saw her for the first time live a little over a year ago.
Okay.
Realistic Soul and her band and another band were invited to do a Christmas party for a club owner of a club that we were playing at pretty frequently at the time, Lovey's Cozy Corner. So that was the first time I had ever seen her live. I had heard about her. So after we did our show, I watched her show, and yeah, I was highly impressed. She was very good entertainer, very good vocalist. She knew how to work the crowd, very good stage presence. She was just, from being in the business so long, my first impression was like, damn, this is an artist already. I'm looking, not just
Yeah.
like, the song. You got the whole vibe, like, oh shit, why aren't you signed?
They ready.
Man, she's really good. So, I approached her. We met, and I told her, I said, the opportunity comes along in the future, I would love to, do something with her. So here we are, with the opportunity to do a show together at the Beachland. So, and I asked her, I said, would you be willing to do it? She was pumped, and I thought it would be a great idea. And here we are. So January 3rd, me, I'll be coming on first, do our show. Then Esther will come on and do her show. I think overall, it'd be killer ass night, bro. I'm really looking forward to it.
So yes, for all those listening, whether you're watching us live or on the other platforms, and you're in the Northeast Ohio area, you need to come on through, support this man and his music.
Yes, sir.
Well, Quentin, one of the reasons I came up to you and tackled you at the reunion was because you were earmarked when we thought about doing this show. We couldn't do this show without getting you on. So thank you. Thank you.
Anytime, man. Thank you. I love my Shaker people. Don't get it twisted. I'm one of the people that I spend a lot of time by myself. You know what I'm saying? People who know me, they know that I'm
hey, man, it's like a monk in the temple, bro.
You said?
Monk in the temple.
Sorry,
yeah.
Together. Yeah, I did go to Shaker.
Yeah.
But I'm more like that. I didn't get out a lot outside of my gigs and stuff, but I just need everybody to know, I love all y'all. For real. We all come from the same place. Shaker is fun. So, and I appreciate all the love that y'all showed me since I started playing again. You have no idea what that means for me, because I didn't know if I was ever going to play out like that again. I almost got to the point where it's like, I guess, that was what it was. It's time to start thinking about my elder years, if you will. Sort of to be playing again like I'm playing now, man, I couldn't tell you what that has done.
Hey, man, you need your own version of Purple Rain, okay? Or Whiplash.
I need to write that big.
Yeah, bro. Yeah. You got that story worthy of that.
Yeah,
so
I'm working on that. I'm gonna keep that in mind for the next.
Yeah, bro.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, you got more chapters. Keep writing the book. Keep writing it.
That's what's up. I will. So y'all gonna be there Friday, right? No,
I'm in Silver Spring, Maryland.
And I'm in Rochester, New York. But I will. Right. Our paths are going to cross again. I know for sure.
I'll make sure for sure. Video clips. I know. Allison is going to make sure there's plenty of clips rolling around.
Yes, indeed. So we appreciate that. Well, this ends another amazing. We get some good guests up on here, and really appreciate you. Coming up here,
man. I'd love to come back on.
Yeah. We maybe have a Battle of the Band show.
Oh, for sure.
Some universe. Okay. Next week, it'll be Shaker Story Time with Dave Udelf. Shaker Story Time. He is the oracle, one of the oracles of Shaker, with many stories. So if you're listening live, you can ask him about anybody, whoever, and he'll have a story. So that's next week. Thank you again. We want to really say Happy New Year, constant elevation as we go into the thick and thin of 2025. And again, check out my man's show on January 3rd. So until next time, we'll see you in the new year, hopefully. Yes.
Happy New Year, everybody. Love y'all, bro.
All right, man. Take care.
You too, man.
Talk to y'all later.
All right.
Take care.
All right, later, man.
Okay. There we go. It won't end. End the stream. There we go.